the whole reason we're having this discussion is, what are youth sports going to look like this summer and then the months beyond that? And so I'm going to start with Ross. Ross, what is your opinion of what youth sports are going to look like this summer?
I think right now we're really kind of in a holding pattern as where things are. We're taking everything in kind of 2 week bites of does this 2 weeks look like, and how does that affect the 2 weeks after that? So I think this summer we will see maybe a gradual return to some sports activities. But I'm not sure we're going to be able to get back to being fully what we've always been in what our traditional sports season would look like. What does that mean? Does that mean it'll be more of a practice and skills and drills type format, that we just continue to have opportunities to grow the game in that manner versus being able to gather in large groups for games and competition? I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I'm seeing happening with kind of the direction things are going.
In a perfect world, Michaela, is there a formula to get people back on the field yet still practice responsible social distancing?
I don't know. I was just talking to one of my coaches in the summer program yesterday, and we're trying to figure out a way to get the girls together, because not even just the sports, the teammates, they miss each other a lot. So we were talking about, okay, let's go to a parking lot and we can have each kid in a parking space, and then we can do ball handling because all the gyms are closed. So our hands kind of end up getting tied. So I don't even know how we could create a draft formula when, we don't hear anything until the day of and we can't start prepping. So I don't really know, especially with basketball, it's an aggressive game. It's physical. They're going to be on top of each other. So I think it's a lot different for, our sport than, a sport like, tennis or golf that could go be on their own. I think basketball is probably going to be one of the ones that, we kind of get held back a little bit more.
Am I hearing frustration in your voice?
Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we went from being in a gym probably 5-6 days a week to just an immediate nothing. And it's frustrating because the gyms aren't even open. So even if my other coach and I can have responsible ideas and ways that we can separate the kids, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to even attempt that. And so I think that's a little frustrating. It's just, these poor kids are just like stuck, their worlds have been turned upside down. And there's just, you just feel like there's nothing you can do to help them.
It's a great point, Michaela. And I do think we all needed to keep that in mind. We're talking about kids and, we're the adults, trying to come up with things, but really we're talking about children and what they want. I want to bring in the two people with golf, Brian and Crystal. Michaela mentioned how golf has it easier. I'm sure Brian and Crystal will tell you that might not be the case. So Brian, you run a really great summer program for golf. Are parents kind of waiting to see what happens here before they start signing up for events?
Yeah, that's what we're seeing right now is our deadline is June 7th probably. So we've got about 5 more weeks of sign up, and our signups are down. And I think the uncertainty of whether we're going to be able to play or not is holding people back. We've let them know that, any entry fees, membership fees would be refundable if in case we cannot play. But I don't see that happening. I think that we will be able to play under certain guidelines. Things are obviously going to be different than they have been in the past. I don't think it's going to be what's called normal, but we are going to be able to play the game. Golf courses here in Marion County are supposed to open up this Saturday. So with that opening up, I think it will encourage the parents to, hey, we're starting to get back to where we can play golf. Let's get signed up.
Crystal, Ross brings up a good point as far as, wanting to play. So how difficult is it to come up with a set of rules and guidelines for kids so they can play golf? And do you think you've done that?
I mean, I feel like we have. It's taken a lot of brainstorming. As you know, Carlos, we run a pretty large junior league program over the summer where we have a lot of kids together on the driving range and on the golf course at one time. So That's been something we've had to consider. With that being said, I do feel like golf is the sport, probably out of all the team sports, that is able to probably make the easiest accommodations in this time. Being that it's outside and we can easily spread the kids out over the golf course. But at the same time, it does take a lot of brainstorming. For instance, instead of having, 60 to 70 kids on the driving range at one time and doing that fun social interaction, I've had to say, okay, we can only have so many kids on the driving range at one time. So I'm going to spread my league out over numerous days. And I'll tell you kind of what I've ran into as far as sign up and participation. A lot of people, so sign-ups have really stopped as far as junior league goes. Right now, parents want to get their kids involved, but right now they're waiting to see what other sports are doing. So they're saying, I'm hearing from a lot of parents saying, well, I'm going to wait and see what my son's baseball schedule is going to be like. Depending on that, I'll sign him up for golf potentially. So that's kind of what I'm noticing at the moment. A lot of parents are just in that limbo phase, waiting to see what other sports are doing before they get them signed up for a golf program.
Do you feel that there are some youth sports organizations that want to be first so that they can get on the parents' schedules?
Yeah, I believe so. I know that some of the travel softball sanctioning bodies, their income depends on some of these tournaments. So they want to kind of get things going fast as they can. And our travel softball team scheduled to play a tournament in Shelbyville, May 15th to 17th.
Would it be easier, JD, if you had more guidelines set forth that were solid from the governor?
It would, just because, the governor relaxes some guidelines, and we would have this tournament in Shelbyville as a community-based program here in Fishers. We can't go practice. The mayor controls what we do here in the city. So the fields are locked down right now. The cages, all the nets are off the cages. So, our girls have been having individual practice with their parents, but we can't have even a small group setting unless we find a hidden field somewhere out in the country.
Michaela, I see you shaking your head. You agree with that?
Yeah. My daughter's 10 and we can't even go to the park because they've taken down all the hoops and the nets. So we literally, our hands are tied. My 6-year-old son couldn't play baseball, when, like what JD said, there are things we could do on their own if they would just give us the chance to show them that we can follow the rules. We can do this. I can't even buy a portable basketball goal for my daughter to help her to play because they're sold out everywhere. So I think that speaks volumes to just the amount of frustration with parents just trying to get their kids back to their sports. Taking the hoops down, that's brutal. There's nowhere to go for us.
Scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most frustrated. Where is your frustration level?
Around a 9, honestly. The lack of just more conversation from the governor and just understanding, not waiting till the day of, to tell us what's going on. We've got kids, Zoom calling each other constantly. You can hear them, sad and missing everything. I think we're just getting our hands tied for no reason, but I think they're not even giving the adults a chance to show them that it's okay. We can do this. We can find new ways around this.
Emily, you got into this for the most part to have positive relationships with young people and positively mold young people. How tough has it been for you and for the youth that you work with to not be able to get together?
I think it's incredibly difficult because, we and relationships really thrive off of that in-person connection. But we have been really trying and spending a lot of time and effort into continuing those relationships. So,
In what way?
We have completely changed our programming to online programming. Everything from online training, so the technical aspects of training. We're doing Zoom calls, we're doing webinars, we're doing, individual film sessions online, obviously. But we're also spending a good amount of our time focusing on those relationships, the connections. So we're doing TikTok challenges and team challenges and team Zoom calls and anything that we can think of. We're doing Instagram live virtual scavenger hunts and surprise visits. So every Friday we visit 5 different kids and leave something on their doorstep and wave from their driveway and anything we can do to continue those relationships, because we really have an obligation not only to help these athletes from a technical standpoint and to help them achieve their goals on the court, but the social and emotional connections are so important.
Here are some suggestions from a league in Arkansas, okay? This is from the Arkansas Fast Pitch Softball Association. Here are some points. No handshaking, the Lord's Prayer on the respective baseline with players 6 feet apart. Only 2 players in the dugout at a time. Remaining players will sit outside the gate, lined up and down the fence next to the dugout 6 feet apart. Lysol in every dugout. Hand sanitizing stations between every field. Sanitized bathrooms and dugouts between games. Suggests that no one over the age of 60 be in the ballpark. Limit number of fans per player. Fans 6 feet apart at one time. Possibly not every field at the park allowed. Check temperature of attendees with infrared thermometer. JD, what points stood out for you as something that can happen and what ones that can't happen?
Look, to your point, trying to keep teenagers 6 feet apart during the game along the fence line. But to top that, try to keep parents 6 feet apart. It's, when we're playing games, it's a big social thing for the parents. So everybody's together, they're talking. Who's going to police that? As you're playing the game, let's say the pitcher, she sneezes, right? She touches the ball. She pitches it, it gets hit, shortstop picks it up, bare hand, throws it to first, third out, bare hand, throws it down. Now you've had 3 girls that have touched that ball that the pitcher just sneezed on. Do you have to, after every play, get the Lysol out or the wipes and wipe the ball down? A girl slides into second base, knocks the shortstop over, she falls on her, she coughs, sneezes. I don't know. I mean, those are kind of extremes, but there is some contact in softball, especially with everybody touching the ball. But how do you police that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the over 60 one is a tough one. That would be a really hard sell to my dad. I mean, my parents never miss my kids' games. Never. They never have, not one. And I don't think I could stop them from walking in the gym, so unless they're planning on checking IDs and, that kind of thing, I just don't know how that's like a realistic expectation unless they start, Zooming, live streaming the activities, maybe.
Ross, yeah. I saw you were laughing and shaking your head. I feel like you're back in my day is going to come out of your mouth right now. What do you think of these guidelines?
I just don't see it being realistic. I mean, I think really if we were able to get ourselves in a position where we could resume games, I mean, honestly, when we were looking at being able to continue the boys volleyball season, we were talking about doing it in open gyms and just allowing the teams and coaches in. But we knew that parents were just going to be completely upset with that. Once we got to that next stage of this and realizing that that wasn't a possibility and we needed to take the next step, now we got to consider that. I mean, to not allow parents in to watch their kids play, I think just would be asking more than we want to.
I think I have a little bit different opinion about the no spectators. I know that the AAU National Championship in Orlando just announced no spectators, only coaches and players. I know in our reopening plan, it includes no parents. It's drop your kid off and we'll have coaches and a couple staff members there to supervise. But we are live streaming our courts or looking into live streaming our courts for practices and matches for that. And what we're actually finding is that our parents are in favor of that because, I think they want to watch their kid, but I think they know that if we have to wait to open by the time we have, can allow all these spectators, they know it's going to be 2 months from now. They're ready to go. We are in season and we are shut down. And so, they're more open to that. And it's kind of accepting and embracing that new normal. Does grandma want to watch the games? Absolutely. Do we all want to go to this national championship in Orlando? For sure. But that's not where we are right now. And it's just kind of recalibrating the expectations of, if my daughter can get back to practice or can play in a controlled tournament type situation, and I can't be there and I have to drop her off and then watch it from home, that's what I'm going to do for the next 3 weeks, because that's where we are in the world right now. All of us hope that that's not the plan forever, but I'm been pleasantly surprised at how accepting people are with some of these changes.
What's the single biggest change to your sport that you think needs to be made right now because of the coronavirus restriction?
The single most important thing that needs to be done, and really that we are doing, is a modification to the rules of golf. And I know that's very vague, but as far as everybody leaving the flag sticks in, playing bunkers as, free drops. So there's an overall change to the rules of golf and how young kids play in golf tournaments. So I think just the overall rules of golf are being modified, but I think just spreading the kids out, using tee times instead of shotguns, things like that way. So the rules of golf and just the way that we run, youth events.
I think just getting back on the golf course is a big thing right now for me and for my kids. We've been closed for over 30 days and we've had some great days and they haven't been able to get on the golf course. So biggest thing right now for Marion County is to get the kids back out onto the golf course, playing the game.
Well, I think the number of teams in the park, some weekends there'll be 50 teams playing a tournament in the park. And you're going to have to limit that. I know according to Arkansas, they're going to use every other field. You do that, but if you get too many teams in the park, everybody's friends, they're all going to be together, touching each other in the face, talking. Limit the teams, try to keep the girls apart. But who's going to police that? They're teenagers. They're going to want to hang out with their friends, especially the girls they haven't, seen for a while. So I think just limit the team, limit the kids in the park, and just follow what the governor, his guidelines are.
I think in basketball, it's such a physical sport and it's constant, close contact with everyone on the court. So I think right now we just keep the gyms open and then a partnership across coaches where we can, tape out boxes for them to do ball handling. Just starting to get them back in a gym and getting us a chance to get a basketball in their hand and at least wave to their friends, from their 6-foot box.
With youth soccer, it is paying attention to the numbers, how many people we have out on the fields at any given time. Again, whether that is limiting it to smaller teams or limiting the number of teams on the field at any given time and then cutting back on spectators.
If you had a message to parents, what would you say to parents who are as frustrated as you are, wanting to get their kids either back out on the field or wanting to make sure their kids are safe when they get back on the field? Emily, what would your quick message be? First
would be that we're not taking this lightly. We know how important sports are for you and your family and your athletes. And so I know for us, we are working so hard to make sure we get kids back in the gym as soon as we can, but making sure that it is super safe. So I would just say, if we, as parents, be patient. It's going to look different right out of the gates. It's not going to be normal for us, normal club volleyball next week. But I would hope that we will get there. And just like everything else going on in the world right now, we're in phases, and we're going to start in one phase that's going to be pretty strict guidelines and not going to look a whole lot like club volleyball. But we will get there. So be patient. We're working with you. But I just, I'm hopeful that eventually we'll get back to whatever our new normal is.
Player health and safety is priority number one. Now, I know we all want to get out of the house, get back on the field and start playing, but we want to make sure we do it the right way.
Michaela, what would your message to parents be?
We hear you. We're working on it. We're not just, sitting and waiting. We're doing the most that we can. And, we love your kids and we miss them too, and we want to get them back in for all the different reasons, and just continuing to have that open conversation with your coaches or your directors and share that, information, good, bad, and different. And that partnership's just going to be paramount to getting our kids back to what they love.
Ryan, would your message to parents be, please sign up for my golf tournaments as soon as possible?
Yes, it would be. No, we're going to take every precaution to keep the kids safe. Also, as you know, with the game of golf, spectators, parents, grandparents being spectators, there's separation there. It's not hard to keep the kids separated in the game of golf because normally you're not in the same spot, but we will make sure that they understand on the tees, on the greens, that they keep their distance. I mean, you're still going to be able to caddy for Dacio.
Well, that's good, because if he doesn't fire me, which he's very frustrated with me right now. Is it frustrating because there are so many different sets of rules, because there are so many different areas?
Yeah, that's frustrating. And I think the other part to it is it, as someone who oversees a lot of outdoor sports, I know how to handle weather. I know when storms come in, I know what to watch for. I know how to react to that. I know how to go from point A to point B. And with this, it's not point A to point B. It's point A to point 7. I mean, it's all over the place. And so it's trying to glean as much information as we can from as many different resources so that we can make good, solid choices for your students, for your athletes, to be able to get back to playing. But there is a frustration because there's so much information out there, and we're all trying to make what's the best decision for our athletes to keep them safe and healthy, and yet continue to participate in the sport they love.
When do you want your sport back in action? And when do you think your sport's going to be back to as close to normal as possible?
I can divide it into two separate things. So tournament golf, I think, so play on the golf course, I think can resume quickly. I think now I think on the state level, and Brian, I think June would probably be a good, I don't see any reason the golf tournaments couldn't resume by June. I will say this on a different level, instruction on an instructional level, group instruction with young kids. I think that may take a little bit more time, only because I would find it difficult to be able to keep young kids, especially that under 10 age group. They can't distance themselves from each other. So having kids together in a group as their instructor, I think that's going to take a little bit more time.
Brian, when do you want the kids back on the course, and when do you think it's going to be feasible for the kids to be back playing tournaments?
I think we could play tournament golf in the next few weeks for sure. It's a matter of getting information out about the guidelines and how we're going to run the tournaments and what we expect out of the kids. Our tournaments start the middle of June, so I'm hopeful by the 1st of June.
So Emily, when do you want volleyball to start, and when do you see it really kind of being back to the way it was?
We would want it to start today. Like, I'll just drive to the gym right now because we miss it so much. I think from our standpoint, I think training, you'll see small group training starting in the next couple of weeks, depending on what the governor says this Friday and what he does with the stay-at-home order. I think it will be June before we will see something that resembles a tournament or some type of match play. But I think it could be 6 months before you see anything that looks like a normal club volleyball tournament again, just because of the challenges and number of spectators that are there. So I think it's going to look super different, but I think kids will be in the gym in a couple of weeks.
JD, you've been very vocal about, man, it's like herding cats. Good luck policing these kids. What do you think?
Oh, we're scheduled to play the weekend of May, 15th to 17th in a tournament in Shelbyville. But again, we're waiting for the guidelines to come down from the governor. I don't know if we'll ever get back to where parks are packed, kids are everywhere, parents are everywhere. It might be trial and error for a few tournaments, few weeks to see how things play out. Maybe July get back to normal. But we're supposed to go up to Michigan and play in a tournament. But who's know what Governor Whitmer will do up there? That state's a little bit more locked down than Indiana. So to go out of state and play might be more of a challenge.
My son is playing in golf tournaments in Illinois, Ohio, Tennessee, and Ohio's got a tournament this weekend. Tennessee's got tournaments coming up in May. Illinois is canceling tournaments in July. so there's no, I mean, everybody's got different things going on.
Yeah. So for basketball, I think, I'll kind of follow in line with Crystal. I think we've got to break it into two parts. You've got skills, learning and ball handling and shooting and that kind of thing. And if they open up the gyms, we can do 1 to 3, one coach, 3 kids, and we can do those smaller group sessions. And then you've got, gameplay, scrimmage, tournaments. And I don't know when that is going to be something that will be back for us. I mean, the amount of just like touching and, interaction in our sport is just a constant. And so, I mean, I think, maybe the fall, but I think we could, in the next couple of weeks, definitely start getting back into the gym in those small groups and get the kids interacting a little bit better.
Does it make you sad to say those words? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I've been coaching the same group of kids for 2 years. And they miss each other, and it's hard when they're, wanting to talk to their coach and they're like, we miss the team. And I do too. And it is hard to direct your children through, what you don't know. I mean, I always feel like I'm overreacting or underreacting no matter what choice I make. And I think, the kids feel that and parents feel that. So yeah, it's a sad time.
I think from a youth soccer perspective, training, maybe late May, early June, we could start seeing some individual training going on. Honestly, I think games, tournaments, those types of things, late June, maybe early July.
Let's just go around the room. Brian, what's your synopsis of this whole thing?
I just want to get back to the game that we love and get back to playing golf and have the parents and the kids be able to get together on the golf course. Sign up for the tournaments, ndjuniorgolf.com.
Yeah, I just want parents and everyone to know that obviously being in Johnson County, our golf courses are open. We're doing everything we can to provide a safe, sanitary environment for everybody, parents and kids alike. So I just want to encourage parents to, just trust their kids with our junior programs. Trust your kids, when they trust us with your kids, when they come to the golf course, that they're getting a great, safe environment, and we're doing everything we can to keep them socially distanced and everything we can to reduce the amount of touch points. So golf is a great sport, and I'd encourage you to get signed up for Brian's tournaments and my junior program.
I want to get back on the field just as fast as everyone else, but again, I said player health and safety is priority number 1. I want to make sure the right guidelines are put into place so we can keep those kids safe, and not the kids, but the parents as well, because there are going to be some health issues there. So I want to get out there as fast as possible, but I want to be responsible with it and look after the health and safety of the kids.
Yeah, I think what's most important right now is that we all work together and communicate. Reach out to people who are normally your competitors and, rival coaches, and figure out what they're doing, share resources, and then also just communicate. We're all on the same team. Parents, if you have a concern, reach out to the administrators, reach out to the coach, and I just think over communicate, we're all on the same team, and we'll get there, but we got to work together to get there.
Again, it comes back to safety and guidelines, making sure that everyone stays healthy, making sure that we have guidelines, rules, regulations in place that we can put our players on the field and feel safe with them going next to one another throughout a game. Just be patient with us. Hang in there. We're working on it. We're doing the best we can to get through this. We're all in this together.
Give us a chance, by sport, and let us, maybe provide some information, where we can have, expectation of parents wear masks, 1 parent per, skill set or skill training. Just give us a chance to look at each sport individually and try to come up with some sort of wider scale plan where all of the kids can start to feel like, okay, my sport could actually come back, because right now they're just sad. They just miss it and they're sad. And so if we can start really giving them some true plans, at least tentative ones, I think it can do a lot for the kiddos that are ready to get back to it.
It sounds like you guys all want to hear specific guidelines from the governor on Friday.
Yes.
Yes.
Agreed.